All right, let's talk comics.
Hey, baby, I like it like that. I like it like that. I got so. Okay. Hey, everybody. Woo! All right. It is, what the hell just happened? It's Saturday, and screw it. Let's bring him on. Gonz Paoli. Woo! Hey, buddy.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I am happy you are here.
That is quite an intro.
First off, which one?
No, well, I mean both, but I was talking about like the intro you just gave me. That's very, very kind.
Oh, well, I am so excited to have you on. I want to thank you for being so understanding with this last minute thing with my son that popped up, and I'm glad that you were able to switch your time. But again, I apologize, and I thank you for coming on. Now, I got to tell you, Gonz, may I call you Gonz?
Please do.
Excellent. So I think when I reached out initially, I think I talked to you that I've seen you posting, I've seen you on X and stuff, and it really was a video you did that I watched that just, I don't know, it captured something and really intrigued me into what you're doing. And it was this video you did about how I guess you live near or close to an Air Force base.
Yeah. And
there's like fighter jets flying around, I guess doing maneuvers and whatnot. And it's easy, especially when you live around something like that. It's so easy to just disregard that after, it becomes kind of neat at first, but then after you live with that for a while, you become kind of complacent to it, I guess you could say.
Even an annoyance sometimes, right?
But you got inspiration from it, and you shared that on this video. And like, that's the kind of thing I want to get into on this show is, of course it's irreverent because I am irreverent at times, but we promo stuff, but it's about the creators and the creative process. And I don't know, I'm fascinated. I think everybody's got a different story. There's similarities. Everybody's got a special kind of story. Everybody's got a way to shine. It don't matter what you got, not a lot. So what? Do you know that at all?
I would have joined in, but I don't think I've heard that one. No.
It takes different strokes. Strokes.
That's
different strokes
man. That's from
through the world. Yes,
that's from before my time. That's why I wasn't.
I figured.
I'm an '80s kid, but a '90s teen. So
okay.
Like when Different Strokes was on, I was watching Transformers. So I could sing the Transformers theme song. That's cool. Like I still know that one, but I didn't.
Well, that's easy. I mean, robots in disguise, Transformers.
More than meets the eye.
Yeah. I love music, so I'll just bust out into song periodically. But I want the show to be somewhat different. So, of course, you and I started chatting, in the back rooms and stuff, and I read your first chapter of your story, this Salvador, right? Is that right?
Salvador. Yeah, the one that's on Substack right now, the one that I posted previously, or
I read
what
that.
I sent you to?
You read, what you sent today, I read, and then what you've had up before, I started reading, and wow.
Well, thank you.
The you're able to convey emotion really well, and I could see everything. Now, of course, it's prose. It's in the prose format. But it was great. Like I could see everything in my mind's eye.
Oh, that's very cool. That's actually very that is high compliment for me, because that's exactly what I set out to do, right? So, and like I try to leave the necessary details, not the necessary, like just the right amount of detail up to the reader's imagination. Mm-hmm. But describe just what you need to know to be there, in there with the story.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know this is a comic show, and I'm actually making a comic manga, but I've always enjoyed writing stories. Now, the reason you saw this in prose is, like I mentioned in one of my videos, art is expensive. This, and it takes a long time to make. So sometime at the beginning of at the end of 2024, I had kind of an aha moment, and I thought, well, I already know how to write. I mean, I not know, but I know I have experience writing in prose, right? Like writing short stories, and I just want this thing to be, to exist, to breathe life. I want it to actually, go out into the world, and I don't want to keep waiting. And it's kind of a long road that it's been on. But at one point I was like, why don't I just start? I could just start writing it. Like, there's nothing stopping me from typing words on a screen. And I just thought, it's to hell with it, and I just started. And even though the original idea is for it to be a manga graphic novel eventually, I thought, what the hell, I can let people start seeing what the story is like, in like as if it was the book version. And it's like I'm doing my own adaptation, so it's the exact same story. I'm just it's like, it's just being written for a book, like for that medium in that way. And then I'm also in parallel writing the script, like picturing panels. I studied audiovisual communication. I was going to do movies, I know a bit about directing and like that audiovisual medium. So I think in terms of shots, like established shots, wide shot, close up, whatever. And I'm sort of imagining it's basically the same sequence of events, but I'm imagining it in both ways, just because I want it out there. I want to get it out there. I can't keep waiting for the art issue to be resolved, and that is its own long story. It has its own long story. But yeah, that's why it's out there like that.
Well, you said something interesting that kind of grabbed me there. You said that you had originally been interested in, my dog's going nuts because somebody called. You had originally been interested in film and making film, things like that. The guy I had on last week, my guest Nick Patch, same thing.
Yeah. Same
thing here. I originally started writing because I was writing scripts. I was writing screenplays for films that I was I was gonna be the next Kevin Smith, and I wrote my own comedy trilogy and stuff like that, of course, based on all my friends.
I know that feeling all too well. Yeah. I studied what I studied because I was going to be a movie director. That was it.
Yeah, me too. And it's interesting that there's three of us now that share that, we're in this comic sphere, if you will, and we kind of have that common that it was really film entertainment that kind of started us into I guess the creative process, if you will.
Yeah, and I kind of fell into comics because it seemed like it's a very visual medium without the need for expensive equipment you know, and like cameras and actors and or even animation. It's the simplest way to get a story out on paper in that visual way that I enjoy stories, because I like my favorite medium is movies to consume, right? And that's kind of where it comes from, right? And comics is just the most it's the easiest way to get an MVP of any kind of story. But then, you know, I started going through that process, and at one point I tried to do the art myself, but I realized I was up against a bigger monster. You know, I was biting off more than I could chew. So,
Sure.
so I fell back into writing, because I thought, well, okay, I can do this, and then with this as kind of like the new kind of MVP, I can try and go for the next step of production, just getting it out there. You know, it's a lot of great, you know, a lot of big successful IP start out as either comics or mangas. As some of them start out as books, and then they go on, you know, they go on to more visual mediums, and then, you know, animation, and then maybe motion pictures. Who knows? You know, I like to play with my imagination. I think ambitiously, but I figured start with me and a computer screen. Move your fingers.
Yeah.
You know?
No, absolutely. And, you know, that's kind of my plan with bootlegger, you know, bootlegger comics, but it's actually part of bootlegger entertainment. And that's kind of my overall goal with this is, you know, comics kind of get the ball rolling. Then if, as we build success, we then move into animation, and then God willing, we build more success, we go into film and television. But we never, you know, it never gets to a point where it's like, all right, we're animation now, stop with the comics. The comics is always the heart of the stories for me, where that's where the stories kind of are birthed, if you will. And I loved comics when I was a kid. Wasn't into superhero stuff, you know. For me, it was GI Joe, the Nam, stuff like that. I got to say, I was probably around 12 or 13. And anyways, so yeah, I share that with you. You know, I originally was going to do film. I was going to go to film school in New York and all this other stuff. And hey, we got a comment here in the chat. Patricia Forbes.
Hey, Pat.
I'm a big fan of Salvador's story. It is brilliant. Well, I will tell you that the portion I've read was fantastic. I want to read more of it. So
I actually put out the version that Pat has read is the one that I put out last year, and I've been on and in fact just last week I put out a post talking about like the creative process that I've been through in the past year, that I've been kind of quiet, you know, in on the public side of things, but I've been reworking and analyzing and just kind of figuring out a lot of things, and in that kind of creative little chaos, I realized that I needed to make a couple of tweaks, a couple of changes to chapter 1, because at first I was like, all right, it's going to start out like a horror type thriller, and it's going to be intense, going to be like this and like that. But the more I thought about what I want the ending to be, I was kind of I was resisting the idea that, like, the kind of nagging idea in my head that I was realizing it's more like an action story at the end. It's more like an action thriller, but there's a lot of action. There's, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's ticking clock kind of stuff, and get the thing before the thing happens kind of action. So I thought, well, so I spent a long time really looking at each moving piece of the story, because I have like the global story in my head and on a couple of documents. So the more I looked at chapter 1, I thought, well, this doesn't really promise. You know how you watch the first scene of a James Bond movie, it usually doesn't have much to do with the main plot, but it is some kind of a heist or escape
Sure.
or like a chase, because there's a very clear reason for that. It's because you are you are giving a taste. You're giving the audience a taste of what's to come. It's like the very first scene, the very first part, the introduction to any story is both a mirror and a promise, and like an introduction to what's coming. To, you know, you don't start reading a love story and then end up like watching a horror. Whenever that happens, you are disappointed. You're disappointing the readers who started reading the story at the beginning, and the people who would have loved the ending never get there because they look at the beginning and they're like, that's not for me. So I had to change up things a little bit, and I did a rewrite, and that's actually starting to come out starting next week.
Awesome. You know, it's it's important to do that kind of stuff. You know, it's you know, I had to do that. You know, I tried launching the Nostradamus Effect twice on crowdfunding, and both times it failed to meet its funding goal. So I had posted on X like, hey, everybody who you know, saw the campaign, went to the page, saw the campaign page, but didn't back, what kept you from backing? You know, and I got a lot of great feedback. I got a lot of great feedback on the campaign page, you know, just from other people who had done it, areas I could tighten up, things like that. But this particular post in general really brought to mind things that were, you know, I guess you could say deal breakers for backers. And, you know, part of that was nothing was really character focused. It was all about mood. You know, I was all about setting the mood. And the first 5 pages originally were this telling this reenactment of this legend of Nostradamus about drinking from his skull, getting his powers, but then dying because you disturbed his grave. So it's this whole legend, which takes place during the French Revolution. And it ends up, at the end of it, it ends up being a little kid watching a documentary explaining this whole thing, right? And then it jumps to modern day and this grave robbery and everything. But after I launched, I realized, well, crap, the first 5 pages are all in revolutionary France, you know?
You were making the wrong promise. Yeah.
Right. Exactly what you're saying. So, you know, I was, I guess, confident enough to look at that and be like, this is a great point. They're right, you know? And so I shifted the story around. And so it starts out with the grave robbery that then triggers a memory of this person, you know, they're seeing the skull in their hand, and then it triggers this memory, and we have that memory flashback of them watching this documentary. So yeah, man, you know, you got to listen to readers, and you got to listen to your gut, and be willing to change.
Yeah, failure is always data. That's the most important part of failure, is that it's experience and it's data, especially, you know, what happened, why didn't it, you know, why didn't it get through? I've gone through quite a bit of, I like a few ups and downs over the past 2-3 years. I've been like dedicated to this project for about 2 years now, and I've gone, you know, ups and downs, and like a couple of ups have been people like Pat, who have been very encouraging, and like I would go on Twitter Spaces and just talk about this, like the story I was working on, and be like, I've got the story where it's going to be like this and this and that, and Pat was there, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, that sounds really interesting, you should really do that. And I was part of a small crowdfunding campaign on this new site. It's kind of a long story, but that was kind of a small win. But then what happened after was kind of a loss, because I tried. I said, you know what, I gotta be more confident. I have to have more confidence in myself. I'm a good artist. I can do this. I gotta stop having all this self-doubt and the what's it called, the effect, I almost said Nostradamus effect. The imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome, yeah.
I was this imposter syndrome. I got to get over the imposter syndrome. I got to just do the thing. And I started doing the thing, and I realized it's kind of like, you know, I'm going to climb the mountain, and you climb over that first peak, and then suddenly see all that's up ahead is like 1,000 more peaks that are each higher than the last. And you're like, and you're just exhausted from the first climb. You're like, this is not, this is I'm clearly in over my head here. And it's data. It's not like, oh, I failed. You know, I have the page, like the page and a half of what I produced, and it was very informative of what I had to do. So now I'm sticking to what I can confidently do. I actually have it here. So what I can confidently do, which is the thumbnails. So I can basically do my like my storyboards, as a wannabe filmmaker. I can do like basically the storyboards of what I know I want it to look like, and it does, like the quality of the art doesn't matter because they're thumbnails, and I can use the thumbnails and the script that I'm writing to get the idea across, and the prose writing to get the actual story across and get people interested and to know the character. And what I'm doing with these little videos, the video that you saw and the post that I'm doing, that I'm writing, it's all to kind of get it out there, because we gotta do two things as creators, right? We gotta create the thing, and then we gotta get it seen. We can't just create the thing. We gotta actually do something to get it seen. So that's what I've been focusing on, basically.
Now you're yeah, it is, man. You're mainly on Substack, right? Like Substack's kind of your main platform.
I started on Twitter. Yeah, I started on Twitter 2023. But I had a pivot, and I met wonderful people like Pat and a few others, and I learned so much. And I but the real, like, the most meaningful pivot here has been moving to Substack, because Substack is where the other writers are. Like, it's where the other creators and artists and even readers are, and it's an actual newsletter platform with social media aspects, with even video and live streams and all this stuff. So it's kind of the perfect home for me to get the word out about what the story is and let people follow the journey of what I'm doing, because I'm literally I just finished redoing the first chapter. It's ready to go, and I'm starting to edit what I started doing of chapter 2. And that, the notes are for posting about that journey, and the posts are for slightly deeper dives, and also, parts of that story. And as the list grows, people consume the chapters and get to know the character. And so as I'm making it, I'm getting it, I'm getting it seen, I hope. And
I want to share something real quick. I want to share something from your X account, if I can. I'm going to screen share here real quick.
All right.
And this image, stopped when I saw your video, and I went to your profile to check out more, and this image stopped me dead in my tracks here. Do you see this?
Yeah.
Like, I saw that, and I was like, okay, I want to know more about this character and this story.
That is the.
No, I was just going to say it's such a great image. It's small, and obviously you're just getting a snippet of this character, but you look at the emotion. So much emotion comes across in this. It's really well done. Who did you draw that?
No, not no way. If I could draw like that, man, I would be halfway through the manga right now. But actually, I'm happy. I'm happy that you included the actual post there, because that's David's work. David RS, I think it's RS_art. It's right there it was there in the post, right? He's this, David RS_art. David is a Cuban illustrator, and oh my God, the guy is cracked. If you go to that, if you click on that link, you see some some more of his work. Yeah.
Whoa.
He's amazing. He is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why I made it. I made it my.
I keep cutting you off.
No, it's fine. It's not. You're good. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, we don't want to start promoting someone else here.
No, it's cool. It's cool, man. He is totally underrated, and deserves any extra visibility that I can give him. And yeah, like that. I've like that image is it manages to encapsulate like a very I don't know how to say it. I don't want to say complete, but a very wide, a very deep look at exactly what this is about, right? this like the whole thing with the image of Salvador and like the part of the eye that you can see kind of like a Terminator. And he's got like this one robotic arm. It's, you know, before 2008 when Iron Man came out, a lot of people thought that Iron Man was a robot. I don't know if you remember that. Like before Robert Downey Jr. was Tony Stark, a lot of people, the Iron Man just was not known to the point where a lot of people thought he was a robot. So they didn't really know him that well. So here with my character, like I don't. Some people might confuse the arm as being like a bionic arm or like a cyborg arm. He's a cyborg. So by posting things like that, it's I'm getting the idea here across that it's, you know, he is a robot, a humanoid robot, but he's been damaged, and that damage is it's going to have consequences.
Nice.
I don't know how much more I should say, but yeah, that's kind of it captures that feeling really well. I think that illustration. It's
very expressive for such a small amount of face being seen. So it's very well done, and you know, it made me want to know more. And I'm glad because not to sound gushy here or anything, but you're a great guy. You're easy to talk to. You got a really great story. So let's go into you a little bit more here. How did all this begin? Like what, you know, you say you started with wanting to be, you know, into film, but what made you think, like, what made you realize, like, okay, I'm a creative person? You know what I mean?
Man, how long have you got?
Well, I've got long, but you don't.
All right, look. Okay, like the farthest back that I could go for having this kind of like creator brain that I can remember, that I can think of, is when I was about 9 years old, and I had always been a fan of Calvin and Hobbes. And one day I took it upon myself. I decided that I wanted to, and this isn't something that happens to everyone. Like I wanted to make my own Calvin and Hobbes comic because I liked it so much that I wanted to make. So I had read Weirdos from Another Planet. I read all of the ones that were there up until I think when I thought about this, which I think was 88 or 89. And because I couldn't draw, you know, because I couldn't draw, I had apparently decided that I couldn't draw. So my solution was to take like the books that I had and find different panels where the different characters were in certain situations, positions, or poses, and I could trace those figures onto the panels that I was making. And that was my master plan, to make my own Calvin and Hobbes comic, which I guess like back then I wouldn't have realized was basically a fan fiction. And it was called, ready for this, it was called Weirdos from Jupiter. Excellently creative, excellently well thought and original title for a 9-year-old me. But it was the book that I loved. It was the thing that I loved, and I wanted to make a thing myself of the thing that I loved. And another thing that I loved a lot when I was a kid was Back to the Future, for example. And we didn't have a camcorder or anything, but I think it was my sister's first communion or something that my parents rented a camera. They rented a camcorder. And I got the idea to do I didn't have the ability to actually make stop motion videos, but I would hit record and stop, like really quickly, record and stop, and move the things a little bit, and record and stop. And I actually set up on the floor of my bedroom. I set up like a little mini city with popsicle sticks and my little dinky cars. And I had this one little dinky car, it was like a little more futuristic looking. It was kind of silver, and I thought it kind of looks like the DeLorean. It wasn't the DeLorean, but it kind of looked like it. So I set up the scene and the camera, I put it on a tricorder, little Trekkie came out of me there. Tripod. And I did the scene where with the car, you know, speeding up, and then like the flashes were like just a blank piece of paper in front of the camera for that one frame. And I think I used Play-Doh, orange Play-Doh for the fire trails. So I was trying. It looked horrible because it wasn't real. It wasn't true stop motion. It was like 1 second of video. But you know, that's as far as my drive to make things goes. And I guess it's always been there. Like when I was in high school, I discovered my school had this editing suite, like kind of the studio, but we're talking like 1994 or 95. It was like it was with actual, you would actually stick the tape into the machine,
Yeah.
and with these very sensitive, very special little dials, you would move back and forth to the frame, and I couldn't believe it. Like you could like go back one frame if you wanted to, and you'd program in, you're out, and then you'd run it, and you'd have like your master, your source tape, and then you had a second source tape, and you had a master tape that you recorded onto, and you could do it shot by shot, and I fell in love. Like I was always late to school, but when the days that I had to borrow time in the editing room, I would be like 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 sharp. I was there, and I was working on any kind of short film that I could. Any excuse, like any kind of presentation that we had to give, I would always ask the teacher, "Can I do a video on this?" And they were like, "Sure." And it was always some kind of fiction video. I'd get my friends together. By then we had I think we had a camcorder. We any excuse to make a little short film, I was there. And then later on as well, like with older friends, when I was like in my 20s, we would do that. And then I discovered 3D through Blender. And I thought, ooh, movies for free, like on my computer. I could just do it all myself. I don't have to, ask people all these favors and get cameras and get permission to film on the street or whatever. So I dabbled a little bit in there. So I kind of went through this whole thing of just making things. I've always liked making things, I even got into a little bit into children's theater because for a good long while, for many years, I worked doing children's birthday parties. It was actually through one of these friends that made the short films. I got into working as for kids' birthday parties, dressing up as whoever, Spider-Man, Superman, or the villain. The villains were always more fun. And then after that, through one of the friends that I met there, we did a little bit of children's theater. We co-wrote this. Well, no, not co-wrote. He wrote this adaptation of a story, and we did that for 2 years. And then that was when I started to kind of bring it together. I thought by this time I was like 30-ish. I thought, okay, I've got these stories, these things that I've been thinking of and throwing around in my head. Yeah. I was past this stage of just experimenting with funny explosions or whatever, and I was starting to come up with IPs that I wanted to bring out. So is in like between this trying to make this this children's play, stage play, that was too expensive to be viable, unfortunately, and just writing more, and I don't know, like I could go on. Like I've always been doing something, and then I thought, and then after writing an entire book, I don't have it here with me, that was basically a space adventure for kids, but it was like this half prose, half comic story, which still, again, the big barrier there was the illustrations. I started accumulating this big folder on my computer of unfinished stories, and then 2023 happened, and I just decided to go all in on one story. I was like, all right, I got to choose one. I got to think. I've been developing this little story of a little kid robot, a little innocent kid robot who basically faces the worst of mankind. Like imagine releasing an innocent little thing into, the general population, and see what happens, right? And have humanity judged on that. I don't know. I have no idea where I was going with all this. I just kind of started rambling, but that's kind of been, I think I just took you through like from like when I was a little kid to why I'm doing this now. And it's
kind of your creative journey.
And I just don't understand people who aren't like, I don't understand not creating. I don't know what that is. Like, I can't imagine what that feels like. Whenever people ask me, why do you write? Or when other writers ask, why do we write? Why do we make stories or make things? I was like, and it was on a Twitter space, and somebody asked, well, what about you, Gonz? What do you think? Like, what do you think drives us to write? Like, why do you write? And I just paused for a moment. I was like, because I have to. Like, I can't not write. But it's like asking me, why do I eat? I need to write, you know?
For me, I got to get the voices out of my head.
Kind of, yeah. It's like I've got
stop.
all these characters in your head that you need, that they're trying to like claw their way out of our heads, and then, like, you know, on that day that you mentioned, the video that caught your attention, I was watching these jets go by, and like I think that was the most inspired I've ever been. I was just standing there looking at them go, feeling the vibrations of the jets, like it really go, like roar by. And I thought, imagine that was my kid, you know, well, not my kid, my boy, Salvador. I thought, wow, that would be so cool. And I was like, I felt like a kid again. And I thought, I gotta move forward with this. And then of course he had already, I was already working on him. He was already set to have, like, you know, like rocket shoes, kind of like Astro Boy. Astro Boy was like one of the big influences there. And I thought, well, what if it was jets? What if it was jets instead of rockets? And I looked into it, and I started, you know, researching, thinking, well, I didn't even know the difference, right? Like how they work in terms of the, you know, fuel and propulsion and how they work. So I looked a little bit into it, and I kind of worked it into the story, and it, I don't know, just gave it more like what must have been to everyone else in the neighborhood, in the area, just, you know, a cool little show while airplanes are going by, or to some others, like, oh, fucking noise, they won't shut up, they won't let me watch TV. I was just looking at them thinking, this is going to be a thing one day, and other little things always drive me like that. Yeah.
And that's the magic. That really is the magic moment. You know, one seemingly to some mundane, to some, you know, novelty, but to others, it just something that ignites that fire of creativity. And I'm quite fascinated by that. Personally, I get a lot of inspiration from things I read, whether it's a history book. I read a lot of history, whether it's a history book, or you know, I read a lot of science news from different websites. You know, and I had read one recently about the James Webb Telescope had, I guess, found, or I don't know how you would word it, saw brought back evidence that suggests that within every black hole is a universe, and that our universe exists within a black hole. And then every black hole in our universe has a universe within it.
That's wild.
And I started thinking, I was like, man, you know, that to me, that sounds like a massive multiplayer online game with the servers, all the different servers separated out. And I'm like, well, that sounds like a grand design. That almost sounds like a firewall to prevent one universe from, you know, in an incursion into another universe, you know, keeping all these universes separate, because you can't enter a black hole and you can't enter a white hole either. So, well, if you do enter a black hole, you're getting, you know, it's done. But, and then I started thinking of, on a smaller scale, within our own universe, the vast expanse between star systems is almost like another safeguard, you know, like to prevent a civilization from, you know, Tau Ceti or whatever, from interfering with, you know, civilization in our star, vice versa. So it, I don't know, it just inspired me on a story that kind of will deal with that. But
no, that's cool. Like I love when there's kind of like a big question mark around recent findings. There's always room for people like us to go, and what if it's this, like Stargate was another, another one of my big inspirations. Stargate basically just said, what if the Egyptian pyramid alien nuts were right? That's all it did. Like somebody when they said, what if the people who are like, oh, pyramids are like, they have to been made by aliens. What if those people were right? And then just ran with it, And we haven't been able to disprove the simulation hypothesis for our universe. So who knows? We don't know. I don't know. We don't know. I like thinking, like stories, open questions like, what if this was that, are fertile playground for, it's fertile ground for interesting stories.
Absolutely. What really fascinates me is frequencies and vibrations, like, there's,
like string theory, you mean, right?
Well, I don't know if it's string theory, but you can vibrate a suspension bridge at a certain, frequency, and it'll just go nuts, right? And I haven't verified this, but it could be an urban legend, but there's a saying out there supposedly that Nikola Tesla said that the key to the understanding the universe is frequencies, and he was on a whole nother level, as far as I'm concerned, with his intelligence and the things that he was doing. But I don't know. I've always been fascinated by that and what could possibly be opened up. I'm fascinated by the possibility of portals, not Bortles from the Jaguars, the Jacksonville Jaguars, but portals. My mind's a little schizophrenic. I kind of jump all over the place, but and that kind of stuff, I start thinking about it. And then what I start doing is, what really gets me down the rabbit hole is I'll pull up ChatGPT and I'll start talking about this, particular theory or what have you, or my particular question about this stuff. And then I really go down the rabbit hole, and it's fodder for more stories. And then next thing you know, I've got a new story in my head, and I've got about 12 stories right now that I'm writing, all at the same time. But you got to make the voices stop.
Yeah, I was just like that until right before I started going on, right before I went on all in on Salvador. I always had I would basically, whenever I had like a little bit of time here and there to sit down and write something, or get together with one of my friends, the friend that I co-wrote this other book with, just to just hang out and have fun and write some interesting ideas. It was always kind of scattered, right? And then I decided, okay, well, if I want any of them done, if I want to finish any of them, I gotta focus on one. And I didn't even focus on only Salvador at the beginning, because I was also just starting up. I think like a year after I started Salvador, I started my first real thing. It was a little webcomic called Pause and Panels. And that was actually a webcomic that I could draw myself, because the art is a lot simpler. And I tried to do both for about a year, and it was fun. It was so much fun, and I really want to go back to that. I've officially, what I officially always say is that it's on pause for now. Pause, right? No pun intended. But I can't but I did realize I gotta focus. I gotta go all in on one, just to get that one thing ready. Why? Because even if I spend an hour a week or 2 hours a week working on Pause and Panels, while I'm spend 1 or 2 other hours a week on Salvador, I think, well, if I really want to get Salvador done, like that hour a week that I'm spending on Pause and Panels is really an hour I could be writing another chapter of the script, or doing a little sketch that I can maybe post on social media later. Like I did this today by accident on the back of used printer paper, which is what really gets me the most. But I was just I started drawing a couple of eyes just to kind of pass the time. And then I started adding more and more and more to it. And it became another little sketch. This is before his damage. Like I did this on purpose. Like this is before the eye damage.
Nice.
And you know, it's little things like that move the project forward, because now I have a sketch that I can ink. I have a sketch that I can photograph parts of it and you know, and share with people, and it's content, and it's not just content, but it's also part of the journey. I was literally showing my kid how to write. He wanted to write a little mini comic, so I thought, okay. He's like, "How do you write a comic?" I was like, all right, I'll show you. Right, and like taught him the basics of a story. And as he was doing that, I was like, okay, you got this. All right, now sit down, write. It was like just doing like a quick thumbnail sketch of his, you know, little stickman like on one page. So while he was doing that, I just had a piece of paper in front of me and just started scribbling, doodling some eyes, like frightened eyes, and I started thinking, oh, what if I added a nose, and I added the mouth, and I put hair on it, and it just kept growing, and it was on like this, it's even like the paper is even folded, it's been folded, and it's been scribbled on the other side. It's like this work printout thing that I had, but that's a lot of times that's where like some of my best sketches come out, because your brain isn't thinking, oh, this has to be perfect, this is such nice sketchbook paper, it has it to be nice, you got to be careful that looks ugly. No, it's just like just eyes, and it's making a little square. Once you let go of that perfectionism, that's when your brain just can really just start working, right? The bad thing is that it's on used printer paper that I get.
And then something like that, it almost becomes like an artifact,
yeah,
you know, of the whole excavation, if you will. No, that's really cool. So
yeah, so that's why I'm focusing on just the one, right? Just the one thing.
Where did the idea of Salvador come from? What was the kind of the brainchild, if you will, of this whole thing? What brought it about?
Do you remember Taybot by Microsoft? That little chatbot that they put out. There was a chatbot that they brought out, that they put out about 10 years ago. I think it was about 10 years ago. That that you could talk to, and it would learn from the interactions that it had with people. It was on Twitter. I've since learned a little more about the history of that. It was basically like what it could do was it could mimic, like one of the things that you could make it do was just to say things. You could just say I'm a potato, and the bot would be like, I'm a potato, right? And people started immediately telling it to say really nasty things in less than a day. So bad, it got so bad that they had to shut it down. Like it wasn't like, oh, let's do these let's try, you know, experimenting with it, and let's do these interesting things. Let's see what we can make it do. Like no, like people immediately started making it say misogynistic things and racial slurs and all the bad stuff. And it got so bad and so out of control, they had to just close it down. That was the very first spark of, and it's a good thing that I heard about it in the wrong, the information that came to me was incomplete, because I thought it was like it learned from its interactions, like you could kind of like half program it. It wasn't exactly like that, but I don't care, because that's what inspired my idea. So you send out this little chatbot, this little being, this little innocent little thing, like, oh, you know, this wide-eyed kind of little chatbot to learn from people. Hi, like, teach me things. Hi, I'm your little robot buddy. And immediately what people do is like teach it. It's kind of like when you learn a new language, the first thing you learn is the swear words, right?
Right.
They immediately taught it all the nasty things, and it became racist and bigoted and all like all the worst stuff. So like the idea stuck in my head. Like as soon as you release this little innocent thing into the world, basically the comment section of the internet, immediately humanity rears its ugly head, and we taught it the worst of us, and that always kind of stuck with me, and started going around. And then there was another story that I heard about later, but which actually happened before, which is a little robot that a very simple little robot that was designed to hitchhike on its own, right? It was like this little Raspberry Pi in a bucket, and they put a little LCD screen on it and put like little rubber gloves on it, like with like sticking its thumb out. And the idea was that it could hitchhike its way. They wanted to see if it could hitchhike its way on its own across countries. It was made in Canada, and the first version of that was actually really successful. It made it all the way across Canada, which was really cool.
Wow.
But the first thing that I heard, when I heard about it, what I heard was the news that had come out of the second version, because a year later they made a second version. They sent it through a bunch of countries, but then they sent it through a few cities in the States. And I think it was, I can't remember if it was Chicago or Detroit. I mean, people are going to say, well, that's the thing, right? Like in my video, and I talked about this in one of my videos, like it doesn't matter. Like it was in the States, but it doesn't matter. Like that's not the point, right? People are going to say, of course, Detroit, but it's not the point. That's not the point. The point is they sent out this defenseless little thing that could literally not defend itself. It was a bucket that had like a little readout, and if you talk to it, it could reply. It was like a chatbot that had, and the idea was for you, like people, to like pick it up. Yeah, do you need to go somewhere? And it'd be like, yeah, I want to get to this, but yeah, let me take you to see if it could get there. You know, from basically from just the basic goodness of kindness of strangers, and it worked for a while until it didn't, and it was found just like ripped apart, taken apart. People took the screen, they took the Raspberry Pi, and it was like just like the bucket and like dismembered arms, like just the,
wow.
ripped, they found, and there was a picture of that they found of it, just completely destroyed. And again, like when I heard about that again, I was like, damn, you know, again, like the people are just so bad. Like, is that? And I thought, is that the side that always shows itself the loudest? I know that there are good people, but is it like, are the trolls always going to be the loudest? Is this like,
yes,
is this the side that shows itself? Like that was the question that I had, right? And it started, you know, like those little ideas started kind of coalescing into my little 2 weeks before it was brutally vandalized and decapitated in Philadelphia. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. And
the city of brotherly love.
Yeah, right. But that's and it was so bad that it even overshadowed its previous success. It made its way all across Canada, like from coast to coast, literally coast to coast, and it made its way through like the second version made its way through a bunch of cities in Europe, cities or countries, I think even. But in the end, it met up with just people who were like, nah, and it just took it apart. So that idea of an innocent little robot, an innocent little being, defenseless and innocent, and just wanting to learn and wanting to experiment, and people just rip it apart. That was like the kernel, like the seed of the idea for Salvador to go through all this, and then to have this like the key moment that when you start a story, there's always this moment that's like the first thing that you imagine is this key moment, like either from the climax or from this really inspiring kind of scene that you imagine, that you picture.
Yeah.
The very first moment that popped into my head that I kind of dreamed up was when he's had it. He's had enough. He's had enough of all of it. And he's just, have you seen Evangelion? I forget which movie it was, but one of the movies where Shinji just kind of like goes berserk, and it's like the end of the world, and he's just screaming in the middle of all the chaos, and there's like these black clouds swirling around him. He's just screaming. Have you seen that? Have you ever watched that?
I have no knowledge of manga or anime or any of that stuff.
Well, I got into like the mangas because of the animes. Like I said before, like my thing is movies, right? And I saw that movie. I saw the series first, the show, and I saw the movie, and that scene kind of came back to me as I was starting to think about this little character, and I imagined him just kind of going berserk and losing it, and having all this like massive energy and black clouds swirling around him, and kind of like just ready to end everyone because they fucking deserve it, right? And that's what started. That's what started me going, okay, well, how does he get there? How does he get there from being this little innocent, harmless, friendly little robot, and how does it end? We don't know. We'll have to find out. I went through a couple of versions of the ending, but I've since I've been working on it for that was like 8 years ago that I started really like formally sitting down and like working out details of what the robot is like, and other details that I don't want to share yet, because if you're gonna be reading the story, it's I like a lot of it to be a surprise. There are a couple of reveals in the story that they're more impactful. Spoiler stuff.
Well, let me ask you this. So when it comes to your opinions of humanity, are you more pessimistic than optimistic, or vice versa? Or maybe a better way is to put it hopeful or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty jaded but not I wouldn't say completely jaded. I am pretty pessimistic for a lot of what we see. Like the people who are the loudest and most powerful often do the most damage. Like, we can want peace all we want, but look at Putin and what they're all doing. It's like I'm hopeful for the few, or I don't even think it's the few of us. I think the majority of us just want peace, but it may not be up to the majority of us, So I don't know. Like, I'm worried, but I have to be hopeful. So I don't know. So who knows? I want to be hopeful. I want to be hopeful.
But I would say my personal outlook is there are way more good people out there than there are bad. The problem is the bad ones get all the good press because I think a good example is serial killers. You look at serial killers and it's a hot topic. I mean, it is. It's just the reality of it. People want to know who it is. They want to know their name. They want to know the background. They're fascinated by it.
And I think a lot of that is survival instinct too, right? Like, I want to know about this guy. Like, what should I know? You know what I mean? Like, how can I?
Yeah, but I also think there's a part of us in there that has that. I think people refer to it as a lizard brain. But people would never think of doing that kind of thing, and you're kind of fascinated by those who do. And I think that kind of thing leads to, like, anytime you look at the news, there's a bazillion wonderful things that happen on any given day, everywhere, all over the world. But anytime you turn on the news, it's like it's always somebody's murdered somebody, or today I saw a thing about a multi-car crash in Virginia. Some killed multiple people, and so I just think that the bad things people do gets the most press, and I think that contributes to a jaded opinion of humanity. You can look at all the horrible things that have happened in humanity during all of human history, right? That's easy to look at, but you can as much horrible things as there that happen, there's a million beautiful things that have happened. There's a million beautiful things that we'll never even know about, on top of the ones that we do know about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Quiet moments that you never find out about.
Right. And just simple things like I'll go fishing with my two boys, or, help my son with a math project, or help my other son who wants to make his own comic book. Those are beautiful things, right? They're simple. They're not going to make the news, but they're beautiful things that happen. And I don't know. That's I like to think that the good folks outnumber the bad quite a bit. But like you said, you made a good point there. Bad ones get the power, or some bad ones get the power. Not all, but some, and they can make the world miserable for a lot of people.
Have you ever Have you ever thought? I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but have you ever like thought about? I had this random thought once. That why do we have locks? Like, why do locks exist? Like you go down the street and you see your neighbors, brand new cars, much nicer than yours. You still wouldn't dream. They wouldn't even occur to you to just open the door and take it for yourself. Because it's not
Sure.
yours. It's your
Mhm.
neighbor's car. It's not yours. I wouldn't like. I don't know. Like the way I guess my life experience, my like the way I was raised, and I think most people would be like this too. Like you wouldn't dream of just walking by and like seeing like a door half open on your neighbor's door and seeing like something nice there and going in there and stealing it or kicking the people out so you can sleep in their bed, like just doing bad things to people or like just taking something that's not yours. I wouldn't take it because it's not. Why? Because it's not mine. But the only reason we have locks, the only reason locks exist, and they're just ubiquitous. You don't even think about it, is because people steal. But it's not everybody, but enough people steal so that locks are a necessity. Like also wouldn't dream of leaving my door unlocked at night or open. I could like if everybody out there, like if everybody in this neighborhood was like me, I would be able to just leave my door open, not even unlocked. I could leave it open because if I go down the street and I see somebody else's door, like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm walking down, and I see somebody's open door, like I wouldn't think twice about it. Except that they left, try to call someone, hey, are you guys okay or something? But in a world where that's not a thing, I walk down a street, like I walk by somebody's house, see the door, but I wouldn't. It like the thought wouldn't even occur to me to take something or to break something or to do any damage. It just doesn't. It's not even. You know what I mean? It's not even.
Yeah.
It doesn't even compute. It doesn't even
Sure.
process. But the fact that closed doors exist, the fact that locks exist, the fact that the police force, the armies exist, is because there are enough people who do harm. And we need them. We need locks, and we need police officers, and we need armies, and we need whatever. You know what I mean? So that's why it goes back to I want to be optimistic, and I know there are more people who want good than people who want bad, but the people who want bad, they don't just get more press. They also, like, one bad person can do much more damage than 100 good people can do good. Or like the damage that one bad person does is enough for the other 100 or 1,000 people to have to put a lock on their door.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd agree with that statement.
Oh, you don't live where I do.
I
We had a car
mean,
stolen 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It was
I mean,
one
I've had
night that
my
we accidentally left it out.
I've had my car broken into and stuff like that, and there's been vandalism, that. But I, my belief is that just comes down to numbers. I mean, do you live in a big city?
Yeah, Lima.
I'm not going to ask you what city you live in. I'm just saying,
No,
like, do you live
I
in a
don't
big
care.
city, like a
Yeah.
highly populated city?
Yeah.
So the number of
And that's why.
people increases the odds of something happening, right? I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so I'm in a heavily populated area. So, but you go into a small town that maybe has a population of 500.
Mm-hmm.
You have more of a sense of community where you really know everybody in your like. Okay, I grew up in the suburb of Washington D.C., so I grew up in that area. You did not talk to your neighbors at all. At most you saw your neighbor, you gave him the nod, like, hey, that was it.
Morning.
There was no chit chatting with your neighbors, none of that.
Yeah.
I moved to Texas, and it's changed somewhat. Like, I remember it was more different when I first got here. Now it's kind of getting to be like that. But I told myself, I was like, well, I want to start talking to my neighbors more and stuff like that. And it's been very difficult for me, to just go and be like, hey, hi, neighbor. But I'd say probably the last 10 years or so, we've gotten into this neighborhood, and we definitely talk more to our neighbors, especially right next to us. one across the street, things like that. But I just think that comes with where you're living, and a lot of people live in big cities, and you've
And
got to have precautions.
the more people, the more caution you got to have.
Absolutely.
But I think you're right. It's not that it's like everybody is bad or like there are more bad people, right? I've had to do like for Salvador, I've had to do kind of like an alternate Earth kind of deal, right? Kind of like like how Watchmen did this, what would happen with all these historical events if humanity was more violent than it is, And I mean, like speaking of Watchmen, like when the girl puts that flower into the barrel of the guy's gun, I think didn't that happen for real? And the guy was moved. Didn't that happen for? I'm sure I heard somewhere. I haven't.
That's about Kent State. That's the incident. That was supposed to be the incident at Kent State where they did kill student protesters.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. Then I've got it all wrong because I did not research this. Obviously, it just comes up. But I always thought, that I had the idea in my head that had happened, but I don't know where I got the idea that the guy was moved, like the soldier was moved by that, and he put his gun down or something. Maybe I guess not. but Watchmen is still like this kind of alternate reality where people are more violent. There's more violence than there is in our world, and this is what would happen. So in Salvador, it's like there is more violence towards the development of highly advanced AIs. Right? People are, and so how today, and this like I started thinking of this in 2018, but it's really starting to come forward. It's starting to show today. Like a lot of people are afraid of how advanced AI chatbots are getting, and not because they're going to take over the world, but because they are dangerously advanced and sometimes wrong. Like there are wrong enough times that they can cause damage. Anyway, the thing is, a lot of people are against all of this development. I imagine a world where they are really against this, like the development. Like imagine there were extremist groups actively seeking out research labs to destroy them because they honestly believe that they are saving humanity by slowing down progress of advanced AI. That's the stage.
It's pretty close to where we're at now. I mean, I don't know if you saw this on X, but there's a guy who had accepted some project with I think it was Amazon, and it was going to be an animated series using some AI tools to create this animated series. And he made this big announcement. He was really proud of it. And then here comes the anti-AI crowd and just bully the living shit out of him. And he finally just concedes and say, I've stopped. I've backed out of this project. I'm not doing it, which to me was extremely soft. I mean, frankly, he should have stood his ground. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what he was doing, and other people have said, oh, well, he would have lost all his followers and people who'd watch his show. And I'm like, people like that they're not paying to watch his stuff. These are just angry people who are afraid of the printing press. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's beyond me. There are things that can go wrong for sure. Of course, the biggest thing that I worry about is when they start implementing this AI into schools, because who's programming it? Who's setting up the parameters of what this AI will teach? I've gotten into, I talked about how I have these conversations with ChatGPT, and I'll propose things, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, that's not how the world works," or what have you. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous, So it's all in who. And I remember Google got in trouble when they were doing their AI image generating. It was very early on, and like people were asking them, "Hey, make an image of King Henry VIII," and it made like this big black dude. And, it was incorporating all of this, like modern day DEI type of ideology into the things that it was creating. Now that worries me about something being used for educational purposes.
The problem is bias.
Who's creating it? Who's programming these parameters with which it will teach or what have you? So I think that's the bigger danger than, taking a job. I mean,
I think.
Go ahead.
I think, like, if I'm no expert, if I had to predict, what's going to happen with education, I think I think it's always going to be people behind whatever is being programmed into the AI systems to teach kids the things. There's always going to be somebody saying, there's got to be somebody writing the prompt, right? I'm really more like, I'm a teacher. I'm more worried right now about the mental laziness that is rampant now among students, because it's so easy. Like, I don't blame them either, right? It is so easy to have your chatbot on, like, in the background, and have it spit out answers for you so you can get through the class, right? And I keep telling them, I'm an EFL teacher. I teach English to university students as a second language, and I always tell them, like, if you have the chatbot, like your phone on there, like in the background, listening to me ask you the question, and then you're just reading the answer that it gives you, because they can just prompt it, like, answer like an English student, blah blah blah, make some mistakes, blah blah blah, like basic level, whatever it is they want to put in. Sure. You can put anything in, and then it just listens to me, and then it spits out an answer. They're like, I like to, and they just start spitting out an answer. I detect it, I see it, because they'll mispronounce words that they supposedly are thinking of, that they supposedly know, but you can tell it's the first time that they're seeing this word and they're trying to sound it out and say it. So my argument is always, like, you are not doing your brain any favors by using it for this. And I always say, now, I'm not one of those teachers who say don't use AI. I always tell them, dude, I use AI every day, but use it to organize your time. Use it to make a study plan. Make it to, like, use it to suggest courses of action, but don't use it to cheat. Because if you've got your phone right there, like right just behind the camera, and you're pretending to talk to the monitor and you're just reading, it's the same as being like, so Chris, what's your favorite movie? And it's as if you'd be like, what did he say? He said this. Okay, what should I say? Say this. Okay,
right.
And then you'd be like this, right? Like, what the hell is the point of doing that? I tried to get into their heads, like 15 at a time, like 15 students at a time, because this is the max size of my classes. The idea, at least plant the seed of the idea that, like, you need to go through the uncomfortable silence and the and like the pain of getting things wrong. You have to make mistakes in order to learn, basically, is what I tell them.
Yes,
you
need
100%. To. Like, if you never make a mistake in my class, it's because you already knew the things that I'm teaching you, and you're like, you don't belong here. You're not supposed to be here. The only way that I know you're learning is because you made a mistake, we corrected it, and now you do it right. It's like the most basic way that I can explain it. So if you got the robot there, I always tell them, don't get help from the robot. Don't ask the robot. If you get the robot to say it for you, then you have not learned a thing.
Yes, 100% agree with that.
That's my biggest worry as far as AI. It's like the mentality that I can just get the thing, like the chatbot, to say it for me. It's a big challenge for students, and it's a big challenge for teachers, because I can't. It's like like when they invented the calculator. Like, you have to take math tests a different way now, right? We got to think of different ways to teach you. And I'm not even in schools. Like, I'm just an EFL teacher, ESL teacher. But like teachers who teach other bigger subject matter, bigger subjects, we got to think, how are we going to get them to want to learn? Like, if you want to learn, that's enough. Because even if you got the robot right here who can tell you the answer, you're like, don't tell me the answer. I don't want to know the answer. I want to learn the answer.
Mm-hmm.
That's different.
That's the hard part.
That's it.
I'm speaking from my own perspective here. I hated school. I hated every
100%.
minute of it. Now, looking back on things now, and on my youngest son is 11. He got diagnosed with dyslexia.
Oh,
and
no.
all the things that, pointed them to say, hey, we think he's dyslexic at school. I had all the same things.
Yeah.
I was constant, like if the class didn't hold my interest, I was looking out the window, I was daydreaming, all these, whenever I had to read out loud, I would say words that weren't even on the page.
Yeah.
And I hated school with a passion. Even in high school and when I eventually went to college, I hated it. Hated every minute of it. But
did you get diagnosed with ADHD too?
Sorry?
Did you get diagnosed with ADHD as well?
No.
Only
When I was in high school, you were lazy. That's all it was,
Oh yeah, no, but I mean today, like, I know that they called you lazy. I've been through that. Did you get called? Sorry, did you go through a diagnosis now, like
no,
as an adult? No,
never did. But I like seeing my son go through that stuff and then getting, the formal diagnosis and everything, and then they changed his whole learning structure. He was in a dyslexic class and he had 100% turnaround. Like his grades just totally improved. His engagement improved. He became like a leader in the classroom, like helping other kids who were struggling, and just incredible. So, they created all these kind of like exceptions that he could take advantage of for tests. Like they had to have somebody read the test questions to him until he got to a certain proficiency with his reading, with the dyslexia. And man, I mean, schools today, like I wonder, like if I had had that kind of thing when I was a kid, like maybe my whole outlook on school would have been completely different. But there were two classes that I always did well in. It was English, the writing classes specifically, especially creative writing, and music, anything music, I did really well in. And I am a musician. I played guitar for years. I don't play much like I used to, but I would just write stories. So I will tell you, my whole thing is Star Wars. When I saw that in 1978, because they re-released it a year after it originally released.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was such a huge thing. When it had been a year since it released, they re-released it in theaters, select theaters all across the country, and that's when I saw it, and it just made my imagination explode.
Yeah.
And that kind of was that seed that was planted for my imagination. Now, hold on real quick. We're at an hour and 20 minutes.
I'm good. I've got a little time.
You're good. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard to get kids to want to learn. I didn't want to learn. I just wanted to be done with school so I could become a guitar god. I was convinced I was going to be a world famous guitar player, but I don't have an answer for it. But it's funny now, when I became an adult is when I really started reading a lot. Like I hated to read when I was a kid.
It's
but
motivation.
When I got into my 20s, I just, and it's all history. Like I have a few fiction and sci-fi stuff, but it's mostly history stuff and weird history, you know, not like history of the Civil War or whatever, you know, American history. It's all weird.
Yeah. It's all about motivation. If it motivates you to look into, to read about, to learn about, you'll do it. You don't even care. Like I'll tell you a story about my son. He in our family, it's ADHD, right? I got diagnosed late in life. The classic way that older people like us get from our generation, that we find out that we have ADHD. Typically, it's because our kids get diagnosed, and the psychiatrist that gives us the reasons why, and we start going, wait a minute, hold on, wait. Oh crap, right? And they start realizing, wait, that sounds a lot like me. But in my case, it was a little different. But the thing is, I got diagnosed and I was 41 or 42, I think, and shortly after my kid was diagnosed with ADHD as well, and he gets overwhelmed very easily with certain tasks. And one of the biggest issues that he's had in school is writing by hand. Like you give him something to write, like even like 3 lines, it just overwhelms him. And he's like, I don't want to do it, and he just pushes it away. And it's something we've been working on for the past 2 or 3 years with him. And it's always this thing that comes back up again and again and again. And it's funny that we mentioned this because today, Saturday, May 30th. Geez, May 30th. Where's the time gone? It was today that he wanted me to show him how to make a comic. I was like, okay, yeah, all right. And I gave him, I gave him the basics, beginning, middle, and end, to think of a story like this, like that. And we did it like in a little example, and he loved the idea. And he did his little like a thumbnail page of panels with little characters. And he was like, I'm gonna go make another one. And he went off. He left for about 10 minutes. I think it was like 10 minutes or maybe 15. It could have been 15. I don't know. Time blindness. But for a certain amount of time. And then he came back with this little booklet that he had made, but it was like more than a comic. It was more like a picture book, like a children's storybook where you had like one illustration and a little text. Yeah. And there once was a thing and then the little spider did this and that, and like it had like 6-7 pages where each one was like a little mini paragraph of what was going on in the story. And then the spider that jumped over here and did this, and then he went into the garden and it made a spider. I was like, do you realize that you just wrote an entire story because you wanted to? And I was like, so I told him, you realize you don't hate writing. You just hate writing boring things. And I was like, yeah. And he kind of like realized it. I was like, and he kind of scurried out because I was gonna make him write something from school. So now you can write, so go write this. And I was like, my point was that it's all about motivation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all it takes, especially for us. That was a beautiful moment, and it happened today, this afternoon.
He's gonna remember that forever. That's something I think a lot about is how will I be remembered by my kids when I'm gone? Not to get too much of a downer here, but that's
it's going to be a complicated. It's going to be a complicated memory, I think. We're all doing our best, and I think that's the most important thing that you learn about your parents is that they really were just doing their best, and in spite of, like in my case, like in spite of them just really, really just doing their best, we still managed to mess our kids up in the weirdest ways. But that's all we can do. Yeah, like that's all that our parents could do, and that's all that we can do. Like we are literally doing our best with all our shortcomings and everything. It's the best we can do, and that's all we can offer.
Our failings and foibles.
Yeah, but it's the best I got. So here you go.
That's it. But I wanted to kind of switch gears here real quick. This is First off, this has been a great conversation. Again, I want to thank you for coming on here.
Likewise. Yeah. Thanks.
What's the plan for Salvador?
Salvador.
What's the overall plan for it?
Oh man, I'm. Do you really want me to go off the rails? Like, do you really want me to talk about how, like, okay? Well, here's the realistic plan. I'll tell you the realistic plan first, and then I'll tell you what my ambitious little goblin brain is dreaming of, because of course it is. Right now, the plan is to continue writing the prose chapters. I've come up with a better way to remain consistent in writing the chapters, because I've realized that each chapter has been a little bit more overwhelming than I'd like, and I kind of got stuck there. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to be releasing them in shorter chunks. It's easier for me to keep up, and it's also, I think, easier for readers to kind of digest like 4 quick pages of a short story snippet and then move on with their day, right? If you get a notification of like, hey, just drop this thing, 15 pages, like, I'll read it later, right? So I'm going to be releasing it like that in like more digestible pieces, and I'm going to try my best to end it on like a really interesting bit, like, you know, like how when you cut the commercials in the 90s, you want to keep watching, right? Like mini cliffhangers. I'm also going to be I'm going to continue making the thumbnails and scanning them and telling everybody about them, because my eventual goal is to get the manga made. So in order to do that, now that I've learned, because failure is data, now that I've learned that making the manga myself is too much right now for me, I'm going to be doing these thumbnails for as long as I have to, along with the script, which I can also make. And both of those things are useful for an eventual artist to guide themselves with and to actually make the final art. So I'll be doing that, and I'll be doing the prose version, because, hey, why not have a book at the end of all this? Like, have my novel or novella, I don't know how long it's going to be, but have my book, have the book version, the novelization, so to speak, of that. And you see that little thing that here in the background? That's my audio booth. That's my voiceover booth. I also do voiceover. So I'm thinking, now what if I narrate these little snippets and in the end put them all together? I can have my audiobook. So it might be too much. Like, I'm going to be honest here. It might be too much for my little ADHD brain, but I'm going to try and maybe do the first few, and we'll see what happens. So it's going to be like a multimedia kind of story. You're going to have audiobook. You're going to have a written prose version. I'm going to show people the script, because why not? And I'm going to show people the thumbnails. And as soon as I can gather enough of a crowd to crowd fund some art, we'll head off to the races with the actual manga art. And once that is done, we'll do issue 1, print it, get it out into the world, do the same thing all over again for issue 2, 3, 4, until the story is done. Like, I'm going to just keep, like, the plan is just to keep doing that and figuring out more effective ways for me to stay consistent and more effective ways for people to get interested in the story until the story is done, or I die. Like, one of the two things is going to happen, and nothing else. Like, I'm not going to decide not to do it, or like get tired of it or get bored of it. That is not how, like, the only thing that is stopping me is time, or like death eventually. And
have you ever considered maybe doing chapter plates for the novel?
Chapter plates? Mm-hmm. What is that?
Oh, just like a one illustration that that, you know, maybe represents a part in the book, or so. I'm working on I'm doing a sci-fi story right now. So each chapter will have a chapter plate kind of starting the chapter, and the illustration will be kind of a summary of a symbol, you know, of what happens in that chapter. I've got like Conan the Barbarian books, you know, like collected editions, and they're not chapter plates per se, where they start each chapter off, but they're just plates, illustrated plates from, you know, it's maybe like 6 or 7 of them. But I've always liked that in novels. I've always liked to read for a while, and then kind of in the middle or something, you'll have a handful of some of her paintings, the beautiful art. But, anyways, I don't know. It just popped into my head.
Off the table. It's not. I mean, I wouldn't. It's not a crazy idea. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm doing a bunch of I do sketches all the time. I could absolutely do that. Like, right. It's not. If I'm going to be producing art as I'm doing the prose version, I might as well use some of it for that, right? I could have, the way that you commission a cover art, I could commission, chapter art. I don't know, who knows? Yeah, it's within the realm of possibility. I haven't thought of it, but now that you mention it, possibly, yeah, why not? I like to have a couple of illustrations to kind of guide me along. And then like the more ambitious version, it's animation, motion picture, household name, toys everywhere, T-shirts. There is an Asian food restaurant close to where I live, and they have a bunch of it's very anime themed, and it's got a bunch of
Cool.
Japanese characters in there, and not just like Japanese writings, and it's got the big Evangelion robot and Akira's motorcycle. It's a bunch of stuff, and among those is an Astro Boy, like a model of Astro Boy, like hanging from the ceiling. It's like it's flying by.
Oh, cool.
And sometimes when I see little figurines or things like that.
Uh-oh. You locked up on me. Why don't you log out of the StreamYard and come back in? Do. Well, we got some technical difficulties, it seems. We'll give it a minute. There he is. He's back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Oh no.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Gonz, can you hear me?
I don't know if you can hear me. I'm going to try to switch networks.
Okay.
I'm going to try switching back. Give me a second.
Hey,
right, we'll just edit that part out. We'll just edit that part out.
Yeah,
We'll fix it in post. It's not live or anything, right? It's not
right.
It's not like it's live or anything.
Right, yeah. Not the live stream's not live. Well, it's we're at an hour 34. How are you doing on time?
I don't know, because I closed the door, but I don't hear any angry footsteps. Do you want to? I mean, the thing that I was saying there, just to finish that idea, is I don't know if it caught it or not. I'm always like, one day, right? It's gonna, and I look at the little figurines, the little vinyl figurines in the anime stores, and one day Salvador is going to be one of those. It's going to be among them. And I look at bookstores one day, and I look at the little Astro Boy hanging from the ceiling of that restaurant. I'm like, one day. Well, maybe not a Japanese food restaurant because I'm Peruvian and Canadian, but yeah, maybe one day. But who knows what's going to come of it? But absolutely, I'm there. And then what, kind of like what you're doing with bootlegger comics too. Salvador is really the first IP. It's the first IP that I'm focusing on, laser focusing on to get finished. And once I have that, not once I finish the whole thing, because that's years out, but once I have that rolling in a realistic way, and I have people interested and people who have already a piece of it already out in the world and everything, I do absolutely have more ambitious plans because there are other characters in there. They're like, hey, when is it my turn? Right? I'm going to be, I'm going to try to get a kind of a production. What's the word? Cycle, like a production pipeline going in a way that is sustainable for me by myself. And then once there is a little bit of money, then I can maybe start hiring people and eventually turn it into a story studio, right? Not just Salvador, but like a way for stories to get made first as maybe either comics or books or manga or whatever, and then have that, scale and get bigger and go into animation. And then my wildest little dream is a live action movie of, well, first Salvador first, right? And then who knows what else. The sky's the limit, as the jet fighter proved that day.
Well, it's definitely an IP made for that. I mean, just from the snippet of the chapter that I've read, I mean, I want more. So,
well, okay, so you're gonna get more very soon, because I'm releasing the very first, like what I sent you today is like the intro to the first part of that chapter 1 that I'm going to be releasing on the Substack this Saturday. Today's Saturday 30th, so, and it's live, so it's not like I have to edit. But in exactly 7 days, I'm gonna start doing a regular. I guess we're gonna call it serialized fiction, because it's gonna be in parts, and people are gonna be able to subscribe to that and read it as it comes out. I think for my own mental sanity, my own mental health, it's probably gonna be bi-weekly. Like every 2 weeks, I'll release a new part, so that gives me leeway to keep writing and polishing the next part. Chapter 2, eventually chapter 3. I got to figure out a lot of things for chapter 3 still. I have most of chapter 2, but then I had to rework the beginning of that chapter, and it took me a while. So I'm working on that. So as I'll have like 6 weeks to figure it out and get it written and get it out. That's gonna give me a clear deadline, but also enough leeway, enough runway time enough of a runway to get it done. So anybody who wants to subscribe to that, that's what they're going to get. And they're also going to get updates with the art and the script and everything in between on this crazy process called creation. Making a thing is harder than it seems. But I'm going to put links. I'm going to put links to your Substack and your X in the description after we finish the show here. So if you want to follow Gonz and follow Salvador, then I'll provide those links down in the description. It's worth it, everybody. Really, it was a great read just on that little bit that I loved the very, very descriptive pages I read. Intro there. Yeah. Thanks. And that was the biggest part of the fix that I had to make on the current chapter 1. Like that was what you read today. That was like the biggest part of what I needed to be in the story. Right. So yeah, we'll see what happens after he goes down. Like what you finish reading there. It's coming out Saturday. Saturday, what is it? 6th. Saturday, June 6th is coming out. All right, man. Well, I think this is a good place to call it. Again, man, I thank you for coming on. I thank you for being flexible with the time, and thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Like that your little message, it made my day, because we're still small creators. So an invitation to something like this, it's validating and it's encouraging and it's exciting. So thank you for having me, truly, and I'd be happy to come back on anytime you like and talk some more. Awesome. It's been a great conversation. Thanks again, and everybody, remember, once again, I'll have links to Gonz's X account and also his Substack in the description. Go follow him. Go read his Salvador. I keep having to stop myself because
I don't know why, but I keep thinking
Salvador.
Stromboli.
Stromboli.
Maybe I'm hungry, but yeah, no, it's great stuff. So follow what he's got. He's got great videos. He's got a lot of great stuff to say, and he's got some great characters coming our way. So be sure to check it out. Thanks again, Bud.
Thank you.
And next week, my guest is I gotta look it up because I gotta read
Show notes.
his name. Yeah, so next week my guest is Darko Stojanovic. I have been a fan. I just call him Darko. The last name is a little difficult for me.
Don't blame you.
He is a freaking amazing artist. He doesn't do comics yet. He wants to. He does painting illustrations for like role-playing games, stuff like that. But his art is absolutely amazing. So we're going to be talking to him next weekend. So be sure to tune in then. If you like the stream, give
it a like.
Follow me, hit the like, hit the notifications and all that jazz. And, look for me on X. And everybody have a great rest of the weekend. Gonz, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I think that's it. We're going to go out. And out.